Hello, everybody, and welcome back to High P at Home. I'm Cary Cusumano, and I'm the Girls Division Director at High Performance here in St. Louis. As always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Scott Touzinsky. Scotty, how you doing?
What's up, Cary? Good to see you guys.
Before we get started, Scotty, how much fun did you have watching that match last night?
Well, the fun was this morning because I fell asleep too early. That's too late for my bedtime these days. It's so exciting, and I couldn't stay up that late, 10 o'clock on. So I recorded it, and then I watched it again this morning. I didn't realize that we had one of the worst starts in the history to a gold medal match for our team, but we came back strong, which was nice to see. So
I watched it from start to finish last night, and I got to tell you, I had this weird, worried feeling at the beginning of the match when we went down big, and I'm like, wait a second. I know what happens. It's going to be okay.
It's funny you say that because I was watching this morning in the second set. We were up by, 8 points or 6 points, and then, slowly came back, and I was like, are we going to win this set or not? And I'm like, yeah, of course, we won the match before. So it was an easier one to remember.
That's awesome. So we're going to get started here. We have, I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to start out with three of the most important people here at High Performance. We're going to be joined later in the pod by another coach. So looking forward to get their perspective. There is a common theme here. They are all females in coaching. And we spoke a little bit before before we started recording. I don't want this to just be about, hey, you guys are females, so, tell me about coaching. I kind of want to just get their experience and talk about coaching in general. So we're joined by very important, like I said, three very important people that do a lot of things behind the scenes, not just coaching. Start out by saying hi to Whitney Small. Whitney, how you doing? Whitney's going back and forth from muting because she's got a big family in the house. We'll come back. We'll come back to it. It's okay. We have Monica Munoz, who does a lot of our PR stuff. She's one of the people responsible for putting all that social media content up there. Monica, how you doing?
I'm good. Hi, happy to be here.
Great. And last but not least, we have our Illinois director, and who I'm calling my my editor and my executive producer for the podcast, Abby Hanger. Abby, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here as well.
Good. So like I said, just like we talked before we started recording, their experiences as both as a player and as a coach are going to be way different than what Scotty and I went through. First of all, just the level that they played at, where they played, how they got there, and everything else, but also their interactions with coaches and how their coaching experience was formed. I want to start out with Abby. Abby, just give us an idea of when you decided coaching was going to be a thing for you, how you got into it, maybe who influenced you the most.
Yeah. So when I was playing in college, they asked if any of us were interested in coaching. So when I was out at my JUCO, it got us out of study hall actually. So two of us went and helped some of the younger kids, and I really enjoyed it. And then I just kind of took off from there. I thought it was a really good opportunity, and while playing, it taught you a lot. You got to see from what your coaches were saying, and it also helped my game a ton by being able to be on the other side of it and really have to listen and follow through with what they're saying, and you had a better understanding of what they were trying to get you to do.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really interesting point. I tell people all the time, if I knew now if I could take what I know now back to my playing days, my career might not have ended at 18. I might have continued playing. But yeah, I think that's a really good point. The volleyball IQ that you get from sitting back and watching is just such a huge deal. Monica, same question for you. How did you get into coaching, and what was your path?
Yeah, so I always knew that at the end of my career that I would be coaching. To what capacity, I really didn't know, but I always knew that would be a passion of mine. But I really had, after my collegiate career, I kind of was like, I don't want to touch volleyball for a while. I want to take a break, whatever. I've been playing this sport for 13 years. I just need to take a breath. So I went into the professional career, and then I was like, I miss volleyball way too much. I took way too much time off. I knew that the impact that High Performance had on me whenever I played for the club, so I played for them for my high school years, the impact that this club had on my life and my family's life, I knew that there was no way I couldn't go back and just try to coach and do the exact same thing that so many other coaches in the club had done for me. I was pretty lucky to have played on a really talented team. I was very lucky to be on that team and to be able to come back and have learned so much from that group. And then my collegiate experience, I knew that I had to be able to take my experiences and everything that I've learned and try to help other athletes with that too. So, that's kind of my extended answer, but I just knew that after kind of going through my whole experience with volleyball, I knew that I would come back somehow in some capacity and coach. Yeah.
I'm going to let Whit answer this one, and then I'm going to throw it to Scotty. So let's see if we got our technical difficulties. Good to go.
You can't hear me. I'm not.
Now we can hear you, Whit.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Whit.
Sorry about that. So to answer your question, I started coaching my freshman year of college at St. Louis University, and it's funny because Jillian, who you said is going to join us later today, she was on the team that I was coaching. So I was a freshman in college, and I want to say she was a junior or senior. So that alone, that experience kind of taught me a lot, trying to teach and coach kids that are a year or two younger than you. And ideal situation, maybe not, but like Abby said, it definitely makes you a better player and kind of makes you look at yourself like, what kind of am I coachable? What kind of player am I to my coach? But yeah, then I continued through college. And now thinking about, your question is like, I coached all the way through college. And obviously for those of you who everyone here who's played in college knows it's a ton of volleyball, just a ton of volleyball. So then to be adding coaching onto it, it's funny to think about because it's like, wow, like why did I do that? You know what I mean? Why didn't I just like go do something else? And that shows, right there that how passionate I was about it, and as much volleyball as I was getting, I still couldn't get away from the game. So yeah, and maybe it was just I wanted to just take my anger out on these other little kids, and the hardship I was getting, I wanted to take it out on somebody else, but no, I'm just fine. So yeah, that college definitely was the moment that I knew, and I wouldn't even say prior to that. I mean, in high school, I played high school at a serious in a serious program, and I had no thoughts of it whatsoever. I was extremely timid and shy and could never ever imagine myself being, someone leading a group of athletes as what I was a part of. So college was definitely the moment.
It's cool. I love hearing experiences, how people got into the game. I think it's unique because nobody's paths are the same. I mean, that's why I've learned from talking to so many different coaches. I love the thing that, you brought up, Cary, of, if I knew then what I know now type deal. And I always think about this in my coaching, always learning, new things in the game of volleyball. I learned a ton coaching at Long Beach State the past 2 years, blocking specifically. I was definitely not one of the best blockers by any means. That was by far the weakest part of my game. And if I knew the blocking ways that I teach now, then, I mean, man, I could still be playing volleyball right now. It'd be great. I kind of want to throw that question to you guys. If there's one thing that you know now and you wish you knew it back then, what would it be? And I guarantee it would elevate your games and what you're really trying to, instill into your players. I'm going to throw it over to you, Monica, first.
I think it would be my attitude, the way I looked at everything. So I was a temperamental kid for sure. I was always one yelling at the ref. I was getting in other people's faces. After matches, I'd be yelling at my parents because I just had all this energy and all of this like rage to win in my body that I didn't know how to deal with it. And even going into college, I was kind of still the same way, but then you see yourself on national television, you're like, oh man, I can't do that anymore. So you kind of learn how to back off from it a little bit. But I think that if I would have known how to handle or how to manage all of this emotion and excitement and everything I have in my body, I think it would have been put towards something greater. Maybe I could have dug balls way more out of my range, or maybe I could have had more efficient serving or something like that. But definitely my attitude, for sure.
That's actually one thing that I took from watching this gold medal match this morning, was just how even keel all of the players on both sides from Brazil and USA were the whole entire time. Didn't get up too high or too low. Attitude's a huge thing in the game of volleyball. Whitney, what's yours?
Yeah, I mean, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you. To be honest, I look back and I think I would say being more in the moment, as much as like, I had a lot of success on the court. My teams had a lot of success. And I regret nothing as far as what I've done. Like I had a blast, but I also look back and I'm like, I don't think I realized just how awesome of an experience it was, and I'm trying to, like Monica said, I'm trying to give that back to these kids, and you try to instill that in them and tell them, at practices and in matches and big matches, especially in those moments you take a timeout, it's 23-24 and your heart's like beating and it's like, oh my gosh. And I always tell my players, I'm like, this is what you play for. And I wish I could go back to those moments and like look at myself and be like, okay, just enjoy this and relish in this and savor this moment. Because you can't recreate it. You absolutely can't. And as competitors, that is the moment that we play for. And so yeah, that is definitely what I would tell myself looking back. Whether it's, even those moments when you're 10, 11, 12, you're in the city county finals, you just want those moments back to kind of just experience it again.
I think that's such a cool point, Whit, is too often we take it for granted. Like, we'll just get back there again, And it's like, when you think about it, like, man, I would love to go back to that time and something I might do differently or just relish the moment. Abby Hanger.
Oh yeah, I honestly couldn't agree with both of them more. I think those are two really big things that, you try to pass on to your kids now. A big thing is like self-talk too. It's a thing that I've worked on a lot with my kids. And if I look back, I was constantly wanting better. Like, even if I played a great game, I would tell myself, oh, you could have been better, and just when you do live in the moment, you have to enjoy then the process. So it's not always great moments, but those bad moments still make you make you a better player instead of like tearing yourself up, kind of talking yourself up. And I didn't really realize that until like my junior or senior year of college, when a coach had kind of pointed it out, and I was like, oh, you're not supposed to tell yourself you're not very good to get better. And, I think that was the biggest thing I learned, like walking away from it and wanting to pass on to the players we coach now.
So when I was kind of thinking about what the topic would be for today, I got to thinking about, why are we going to have, a female panel? Why is that important? And I got to thinking, okay, we can talk about their influences and were they influenced by male coaches differently than female coaches? Do they feel like they have a different influence on players they're coaching now than male coaches do? And I got to thinking, I have and I think Scotty might say the same thing, kind of a unique experience where my first coach was female. And I think for the first 6 or 7 years that I played, my coaches were female. The person that got me into coaching, the person I would call my first mentor was a female. And so I'm wondering if my perspective is a little bit different, but I'd like to see what you guys think. Like I said, go with it any direction you want. Let's start out maybe with, do you feel like there was a difference between the influence that male coaches and female coaches had on you? Monica, we'll start with you.
I think there is. I know people try to say equality and we want to make sure everything is equal, but the reality in my world, in my eyes, is that women and men each have a different impact on, especially coaches have a different impact on their players. I think that's a very valid statement to make. During my formative years, I mostly had male coaches, and, they taught me how to be really tough. And I'm sure that, women coaches were the exact same thing, because I could tell you, the person who introduced volleyball to me was my oldest sister, Cary, Jess. My oldest sister, she would literally just hit volleyball's at my face all day long. She's 8 years older than me, and she'd give me like a penny or something every time that she got to hit a ball at me. I don't know. But I was like, sure, let's do it. So she was the one who really introduced it to me, and she was tough on me then. But she introduced the sport to me that, that changed my life forever. So, but then you talk about, getting into my older years where I realized I wanted to take this career further. I mostly had male coaches, and I never thought anything different of it. It was just something that, okay, this is the person who's telling me what to do. I'm going to respect what they're telling me what to do, and I'm going to do it. And, I really do think that there is a difference, but to say one's better than the other, I don't think that exists. I think that, we just, male and females all have a different type of impact on the players that they're coaching. And so, yeah.
I want to get a quick follow-up with Monica. Do you think that because you had all male coaches and the experience that you had, do you think that, is there anything in your thought process that says, okay, as a female, I need to go back and try to have a positive impact on young players? Does that come into play at all whenever you're thinking about this?
I don't know that I've ever thought about it from that point of view. I just have been able to take everything that I've learned, all of my experiences, and granted, they've mostly been male coaches. I did have female assistant coaches in college, and they were tough. They expected a lot. But through all of my experiences, I've just taken everything that I've learned from everyone and have been able to kind of create what I think. And I still learn every single day. I still learn from all of you guys all the time. But I've been able to kind of take what I think is important and try to give that experience back to the players that I work with every single day or every week, because I think that's the most, I think that's going to be the biggest benefit that they get, is to learn from a different experience. And like we've talked about earlier, no one's path, I think Scotty said it, nobody's path was the same. So nobody's experience is the same, no coach is the same. And I think it's really important that we're able to learn from all the coaches we have, whether they're male or female, and just be able to give back to the kids that we're working with every week.
So moving on to Whit and Abby, they have shared a common coach. And so it'd be interesting I'm interested in their answers, but I want to go to Whit first, because I know that in your high school and your college days, you had really strong female personalities coaching you. How does that affect what you're bringing to the table, or how did that affect your decision to go into coaching?
My sister, same thing, would take me outside, and I'd get a report card after every day, of how I did. And I was a big soccer kid. So I had to, in 8th grade, I had to make the decision to I had to pick one. And I was like devastated, because I thought I was going to break my dad's heart. And I chose volleyball. And yeah, and going into high school, I had a very strong female leader coach. And she kind of turned my perspective on females in sports and athletics, and honestly, that's where I gained the utmost confidence from her. And in club, I played for, I would say, until high school, I played for mostly females, and they were what taught me toughness, and kind of allowed me to be competitive, as far as just the emotional side, and kind of tapped into the emotional side of the game. And so I had, like I said, I had female coaches up until high school, in the club scene, and then I got some male coaches, and it was like Monica said, one wasn't better or worse. It was just totally different. The emotional side was kind of taken out of the game for me, and it was more like objective, and hey, here's what we need to do, and honest. blunt, so to speak. And so I wasn't used to that. I was used to, more of the emotional side. And then I continued to play in college. And honestly, the reason I continued to play in college was because of my coach, my high school and college coach. They were similar, so to speak. And I needed that. I thrived on that. I needed that competitive drive. Obviously not saying men are not competitive, but for some reason it just spoke to me and the emotional side of the game. And that's the difference that I see is just, when it comes to the males that I had coaching me, I respected them as authorities, but I had to kind of look into myself and think more. It was more about thought and technique and strategy and how to win that way. And I wasn't used to that as a player. I was like, okay, I'm just going to work as hard as I can and, just be the best teammate I can and be the loudest on the court and whatever. And I didn't really stop and think about the actual game piece of it and that side of it. So both of them have definitely played into who I am as a coach for sure. You can't just be this rah-rah person on the sideline. You have to have, a little bit more of the game, so to speak, in your mind and understand what's happening and not just happen to the emotional side of it. So yeah, Cary, to answer your question, my female coaches had a huge impact on my decision to continue on to play, but also my decision to coach.
I think it's okay to mention that mentioning the name of Whitney's high school coach is Lisa Orlett, who's part of the club. She's a parent in our club and a coach in the club, and I have had the opportunity to coach against Lisa many times. Also, when Whitney was in high school, I get to coach against her, and she was one of the toughest people I've ever coached against. And her teams brought that competitiveness and that drive, and I really, really respect that. And the reason I bring that up is because she was also one of Abby's college coaches at McHenry. So I want to get your perspective on Abby, not just on Lisa, but and if you want to bring her up too, that's fine. But just kind of like we said, the differences that maybe the experience that you have between male and female coaches.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll start with Lisa. The whole reason I went to McHenry was for Lisa. I went to a junior college for my first year and a half, and I was looking at other schools, and I was was almost positive I was going to go to Bradley, and then Lisa called and I went and I just fell in love with her. And she's the only reason I went there, and I absolutely loved it. And she's also the reason I'm with High P today. When I graduated, there was an opening in the Illinois area for club volleyball, and she is definitely my mentor, and she was like, you got to join HP, and she's had a huge impact on my life and obviously my career too, and what I'm doing now. As far as male versus female coaches, I didn't start playing volleyball until I was in 8th grade. And my very first coach was a male. It was actually Steve Meath, our Gateway commissioner. And I absolutely fell in love with volleyball. I knew very little. I was, a soccer and basketball player. But getting to play for him was awesome, and it made me want to play more volleyball. And then he is really my only male coach that I had. From then on, I had a lot of females, and like Lisa, very intense female coaches until I got to college. And then I had a female that was a lot more laid back. She didn't yell, she didn't raise her voice. It was different. It wasn't exactly what I was used to. And I personally responded better to the more intense kind of, get it done type of mentality. So yeah, I'm not a very good rep in the volleyball world, but in other sports like soccer, I don't think I ever had a female coach. It was completely different. And, like Whitney said, just how they spoke to you and approached it was different. It was very more, kind of cut and dry with your male coaches and your female coaches. Again, not right or wrong. It was just a little more, they got more into your personal life sometimes, and maybe that was just too when you got to college, you just spent so much time with them, and maybe the male coaches do that as well. But yeah.
Well, I'm going to let Scotty jump in here, but we want to bring in our fourth member of the panel, Jillian Hoge. Jillian, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for letting me join.
Absolutely. wanted to get you on specifically because you, just to give a little bit of a background, you work at Vianney High School, correct?
Yes,
And you coach there, and you coach multiple sports there, right?
I do. I'm our varsity swimming coach, and then I'm our assistant varsity and JV volleyball coach.
Love it. It's great to have you on, Jillian. I want to go back to Cary's question to the ladies here of, just like Cary, I grew up playing for Donna Mayer, who, God bless her soul, was the main reason why I fell in love with the sport. She was the reason why, and I always talk about this, I was lucky enough to play for some of the best coaches in the world, Hugh McCutcheon, John Speraw, Alan Knipe, the last 3 national team coaches, and all these great guys. But I always say that, man, Donna Mayer instilled in me, obviously, the basics, the fundamentals, the techniques. And to go back to what the ladies were saying, a female coach, she was so nurturing, especially at a younger age. She's not going to yell at, a third grader or a fourth grader. But when she did raise her voice, I was like, whoa, boy, I better listen. And that kind of went over and pushed me into loving, like Abby says, being yelled at, or guess, when they yelled at you, it kind of like fueled my fire a little bit. And I kind of want to bring this into Jillian. You coaching boys, obviously not the easiest thing in the world, just from a listening standpoint. We don't listen nearly as well as girls do, obviously. But what are your challenges, obviously, coaching the boys that you've found over the last couple of years, and how do you kind of get into them to like listen more and pay attention more? And then obviously you can do your thing after that.
So I've been lucky that I coached girls and boys at the same time for a little bit. I coached at Narings before I became our swimming coach. And for the boys, we definitely have a lot less talking, I found, especially in the beginning. So I can't hold their attention super long because they just want to go play, which I love. So we'll have little breakdowns of drills, or we'll talk quickly about matches, but we don't sit and break things down for like 30 minutes at a time or anything like that. One of the difficulties is usually just proving that I know what I'm talking about to a group of guys who have all of a sudden this like younger female coach. And so to do that, I just work my butt off and make sure that they know that I have the volleyball knowledge and strategy to make us have a really successful season. And then I actually had a couple coaches who kind of got me to where I was. I was lucky enough to have Dennis Lafata, who we now play in his tournament. He really instilled some love of the game for me. Whitney was actually one of my first younger female assistants, and she was awesome, and she really showed us what competition looks like in a competitive nature in a young girl, which was amazing for me at the time. Rick Mullersman, who's also in our club, was my very first club coach ever, and he might not even remember it, but it was way back in the Kirkwood days. And then, of course, I had a couple really good high school coaches that helped me through and really got me addicted to volleyball, really.
So if there's one thing, and I'm going to ask all you ladies, I'm going to go right back here to Jillian first. The main thing that I take away from all the coaches that I've had, and I've had I don't know how many coaches, my assistant coach, my sophomore year at Long Beach State, Greg Vernovich, one of the craziest guys I've ever played for. After I tore my ACL, he would go into the gym with me every single morning at 4:30 in the morning, and he would do my whole entire weight routine with me, and he got me back onto the volleyball court. But what he instilled in me was just hard work and dedication. I mean, that was like the main thing. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you were late by a minute, he was going to absolutely scold you. And I learned from that point on my sophomore year, that I gotta work harder than I ever have. Back to you, Jillian. From all the coaches that you've either coached with or played for, what's like the main thing that you try to tell your kids, and like the thing that really that's your main thing, you're not going to sway from it?
I think my biggest thing is that you're never finished. So even if we do this one rep a million times, we're never done with it. We can always do it better. We can always concentrate on it more. And our attitude is everything. So if we have that competitive advantage over other teams, that's really going to help us out. And that's probably my biggest thing.
Nice. We've heard attitude a couple times here today, Cary, from Monica and from Jillian. Whitney, what do you got here?
Speaking of Lisa Orlet, she definitely instilled in me the concept of being part of something bigger than yourself. She was huge on team. And in the high school setting, it's so condensed as far as the season. So you're with each other constantly. And all I remember from those teams is how close we were. And she was the reason for that. And that's huge as far as leading to success on the court. But yeah, more so like just, okay, we're struggling. We're not a very good serving team. Okay, then we need to be better at blocking. We need to be better at defending. Just the concept of team and how volleyball is such a team sport. But more importantly, what I spoke to first of just being a good teammate and being part of something that's bigger than yourself.
That's cool. I got a lot of books here behind me. I haven't read nearly any of them, actually. But I have read the Pat Summitt book, Tennessee basketball head coach, Lady Vols. And that was her main thing, being part of something bigger than yourself. Abby, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, again, I played for Lisa too and take a lot of the same, ideas she has. And just like Whitney said, and it's the whole like effort in for the team. So like, even if you're not doing your best, what can you do for your teammate to be better? And when you show up to practice, are you giving your best for your teammates, or are you there kind of wasting their time? Another book, when you talked about books, was Abby Wambach's book, Wolfpack, was a book I read with my high school team this past year. And it's all about coming together, and everything you do as a team makes you better for the team. So.
That's cool. I'm about to add that to my collection up here. Monica, last but not least.
I totally agree with everyone else's opinion. I'll tell a short story about why I feel that just showing that you care about your athletes, just like giving them that notion that they understand that you care about them, you care about their well-being, you care about their family, all those things. So most of you know, obviously you guys know Chris Nichols. He was my coach for a few years in high school for high performance. I had gotten really, really sick. I had mono and was in the hospital for a couple of days, and it was during our club season. And I was so bummed. I had to miss a qualifier. I was so upset that I had to miss it and not be there for my teammates. But he came to the hospital, and he shouldn't have been there. Like, I was really, really contagious and sick, and he still came, and he hung out with me and my mom for like probably an hour or so. And, we just sat there and talked about whatever. But the fact that someone cared enough about me to come to the hospital whenever I'm in that state and let me know that you like care about me, you care about my family, it just makes me want to play for you. I mean, I'm able to give you so much more. And I think that if you genuinely show your athletes that you care about their well-being, you will get more from them. And I think it'll help you to help athletes reach their potential, really, because I've played for coaches that they just care about the wins and losses. They don't really care much about you. And I can tell you, my experience wasn't great, but I've also played for coaches who just truly, truly care about you. And I really feel like that helps the outcome, and it helps the process way more if you let your athletes know that.
Monica, I think that's a good point. I think that's probably the hardest, for me, it's one of the hardest parts of what's going on right now. I'm not actually coaching a team, but one of the benefits from that for me this year was being able to connect with hundreds of athletes and families, and not just the 10 or 12 on a team. And I think that's one of the things we've been trying to do, right? How can we still affect their lives? How can we still be a part of their experience? And right now, everybody's got their own unique thing, but Jillian was just getting ready for high school season.
Yeah.
Which didn't happen. Jillian, I'm interested to hear your perspective on that. Just the fact that the season just didn't happen, and period. And interested to hear on how you are staying in touch with the athletes. You're in a unique situation because you also are one of their teachers sometimes. So you have to, but just want to hear your perspective on that.
I mean, it was goofy because we were able to do a full week of tryouts, and then we were able to do a full week of practices. So we had 10 days under our belt. You need 14 in Missouri before you're allowed to compete. So we knew that we only needed 4 more days, and then we were going to be able to have a match, which is what everybody was so excited for. We wanted to compete. We wanted to see how we were going to stand up this year. And all of a sudden it just kind of got ripped out from underneath us. I feel so bad for our seniors, obviously, that they're missing out on their final season, especially when they had really high hopes for our season. I also feel terrible for the freshmen who were so excited to get involved with some of them, their first sport at school. And just with everybody, all of a sudden, when you think you're going to go to something every single day after school, to not having any of it, it's been a really big change. So we've been trying to keep a lot of contact with them just through like group meets or phone calls and just checking in and seeing how everybody's doing.
Give us the perspective from a school teacher too, what that's been like. I'm sure it's difficult. You weren't going into anything thinking you had to do online classes or connect with people virtually. Give us perspective from a teacher.
I mean, there's a reason I'm a teacher, which is I'm dorky enough that I like a subject enough to want to talk about it all day long. And then I also want to talk to students and be around kids. So when you take that away, it's been pretty hard. So I make a video every single day that the students then watch and then do their work. And I'm more project based, so they slowly work on projects that are due like the next week. But I miss seeing them a lot every single day in my classroom and really getting to know them and watching them grow up. I teach freshmen and seniors. So by their senior year, I love seeing how much they've changed. And so we're kind of missing out on that this year.
Whit, you had a unique experience this year too, because you coached our hybrid team, which for people, it was a mix of indoor volleyball and outdoor volleyball. Your season was pretty much over anyway, but just give us an idea how that went. You know, how was it? I know you hadn't coached anything like that before. Give us your perspective on the hybrid program.
Yeah, Cary, this was my first year doing this, and I didn't really have any expectations at all. So honestly, I got really lucky with a great group of girls. We decided to take 8, just so that we could make sure that everyone's getting ample playing time in the front row and the back row. You know, kind of trying to touch on all the skills in the game of volleyball so that they can take that then into their sand season. So yeah, like you said, we were planning on ending right after MEQ at the end of March. So we missed our last event, which is obviously a bummer, but it's been a bummer for everybody. But yeah, as far as the season goes, it was interesting because it was a group of dedicated girls, and they really love sand volleyball. So I was kind of concerned about, okay, how much commitment are they going to have on the indoor side? And they came together and it worked. We luckily had 1 to 2 players that could set, because as we all know, setting is really important and very specific in the game. But everybody else kind of did a little bit of everything. As I told them at the beginning of the season, we have to be really good at serving and passing. And so we worked on that a lot, and they kind of mixed in sand tournaments or beach minis as they called it throughout the season on our off weekends. And then as we got about halfway through the season, we went to 1 practice in the sand, 1 practice indoor on an indoor court. And it was fun because, they have different experiences. They come back after the weekend and they can talk about what happened in the sand. And it's a different vibe than just an indoor team, because they have that, and they play a lot of doubles, and they love doubles. So obviously, I get to a practice, and obviously I have my practice plan, but at the end, if I need to, I just say, yeah, just go play some doubles, and they go crazy. So yeah, it was a great experience, but I really did get lucky with a great group of girls who could handle playing all the way around, and they really gelled. But then they also could handle playing doubles and playing in the sand together. And so bouncing back and forth, it was better than I expected.
Monica, I want to go to you because I know you stepped out of your comfort zone a little bit this season as well as a coach. For those of you who don't know, Monica coached our 11 Royal team. Want to get 2 things from you. 1, just your overall experience going to the younger ages, and 2, what's it like trying to stay connected with them during this time?
So whenever I came back to the club, and Scott and you, Cary, asked me like, okay, well, what age groups, do you want to be involved in? And I was like, I really don't want to go below 14s. I think that's out of my comfort zone. I don't really know how to manage that. And here I am. I don't see myself coaching above 14s. I think the youth ages are something so incredible that you get to be a part of. I mean, you get to basically take these athletes and teach them everything that, like, from the get-go. Their minds are sponges. And the best part about it is that no week is the same. Every single week is very, very different. You go from week 1 to week 4, and you have a kid that is athletic, and all of a sudden you have a kid that's jump serving. Or, you know, you go a couple months in and some kids are jump top serving. Like, you could teach them anything. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned from that, and especially so with coaching, Joe Udis and I coached together. So coaching with him is we've seen that if you set an expectation or you set a limit on these young athletes, they're just going to hit that limit. But if you let them try to be something bigger than what you think they can be, they're going to surprise you day in and day out. It is incredible. So I think that the best thing for me and the best thing for these younger youth age groups is that it's incredible the amount of impact that you can have on their lives. And especially like I just said earlier, going from week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4, you just see so much change and so much improvement. And that's what really keeps you going. Cause you know, the game is slower at that age group. It's a lot slower. And some coaches are like, how do you do this? I'm like, what do you mean? How do you do this? They weren't doing this 2 weeks ago. This is incredible what they're doing right now. So I think the youth age group is something incredible to be a part of. And keeping in touch with them now, it's tough because you have to go through their parents. Sure, some of them have phones, but at this age, you know, you try to keep everything through their parents, especially at 11s, just because that's probably the right thing to do. You know, if we reached out through our group message and we say, okay, every week on Tuesday when we would have had practice, we're going to have a Zoom call. And so we get online with them, and you can just tell they are just deflated. They have been in school all day and they're tired, and they've been online school all day, and all they want to do is just go play and be active. And so we try to do some things with them and talk with them. Okay, show us your favorite medal that you've gotten, or let's do show and tell on this day. And you know, it's something that it's tough at this age, but you can find ways to do it. It's totally manageable. I think it's a little bit easier at the older age groups when you have direct line of communication, but when it's indirected through their parents, you just have to make that much more of an effort to be able to get in contact with them. But it's really important too at this time.
One more for Abby, and then I'll throw it to Scott. Abby, you and I are in similar situations because we're program directors. You're running an Illinois program that's all, you know, it's geographically challenging already because you're in different, people are all over the place. How has it been challenging to manage that along with having to deal with my stuff and these videos? What's been the biggest challenge for you so far?
Honestly, it's challenging because it's different, but you know, it's just a lot of Zoom conversations and a lot of group me messages. And you know, for my own 15s team, we are super spread out. We have kids that come, you know, up to 2 hours one way to practice, and we made a Google Classroom, which has been, you know, kind of fun and helpful. And I do have 15, so you know, at the beginning they're super gung-ho, and now they're kind of like, oh, it's just more schoolwork. And you know, so you kind of, now we've eased off of that and we've tried to do other things, even like Monica said, you know, like show and tell, show us your favorite room in your house or something silly, but like for your own team, just staying connected. And then with the other teams, it's just a lot through the group me messages, you know, making sure that they know we have their best interest in mind and that we want what they want. We want to play, but we also want everyone to be safe and healthy, you know, so it's just every day it's a new challenge, and I think everyone's just ready to get back onto the court. And we know we can't, but you know, just talking about the future has been helpful lately. You know, I keep telling everyone, as soon as we're allowed back in, we'll have stuff for you to do, you know, whether it's in the beach or it's little mini clinics or whatever they allow us to do, like we are ready to do it with you. So I think that's been the best part of trying to stay connected with them, is to look to the future and be like, hey, we are on top of this every day, trying to come up with ways to keep you engaged and ready to go as soon as we can get back on the court.
I'm going to finish this thing off here, ladies, and thanks for coming on again. I had a coach one day back in the day that said, I don't ever have favorites, and I agree with that. But I always do have a favorite player that I coach. It's always the one that works the hardest and talks the most. Give me a quick who and why, and if you don't, then all good. Either a favorite player you played with or a favorite person that you've coached and why. Whitney, start with you. Well, technical difficulties here with Whit. We're going to go over to Jillian.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah, we can hear you.
Whitney's back. Whitney's back. Here we
She's
go.
back.
By far my best friend, Sammy McLeod. All-American. I played with her at St. Louis University. And, to your point, Scotty, I say to my teams all the time, you want to be that player that if we decided now, okay, we're just going to play doubles for the rest of the season, or, that's all you play, which teammate would you pick and why? And you want to be that teammate. You want to be that person, regardless of your size, regardless of, your whatever skills you're good at or you're weaker at. You want to be the person that says, I pick you first. And there's no question Sammy is that player, grittiness and tough. And outside of the times that, she's got full body cramps going on, I mean, literally you're like pulling her off the court and getting her a banana or some Gatorade because her body's cramping. But yeah, she's that player that selfless and willing to do, the things that maybe were uncomfortable for her, but the team needed it. Willing to play any position, and just a teammate that you really want to be on the court with.
That's super cool. Abby, who you got?
So I'll go for like kids that I coached. It was actually one of my first years with HP. I had two DSs. One was actually my sister Kaylee, and then the other one was Megan Wool, who's at UMSL. And they were just like the definition of grit and badasses. I know I'm not sure if that or not. But we were playing open, and I don't know that necessarily we're an open level team, but I mean they kept us in system, and I was extremely tough on them and called them out nonstop, and they just responded, and they just wanted to win at all costs. The same thing, like when they would play doubles, the two DSs would beat our 6-1 D1 kids that were at different schools and stuff, and coaching kids like that refuse to lose, and they have zero excuses, and anything you throw at them they're going to figure out how to win and compete at. Those are my favorite types of kids to coach.
Love it. Jay Hoge, who you got?
I think one of mine has to be AJ Clutho, and he's a younger Vianney alum and also HP alum and coach. He coached 12s before he graduated high school. His junior to senior year, we sat him down and we said, we have a ton of setters. He was a setter. We want you to be an outside. And all of a sudden he just became this pin for us. And there's only a certain type of person who would be willing to completely change his position after playing for over a decade, and try something new for his coaches. And he also is just the hardest worker. Willie Whalen has a really funny story about him diving over a scorer's table at nationals because he just kept saying, go, go, go. And so then he went. And so he's probably one of my top ones.
Knowing your role for the betterment of the team. I think Whitney already brought that up today. I love it.
Yeah.
Monica, last but not least.
This is a pretty easy one for me. My college teammate, when I came in, she was a junior. She was our setter, Rai Santos. She's from Puerto Rico. She's a freak of nature. She is absolutely like the best teammate you could ever have on your team any given day. Like she was always had your back. She would always, like on and off the court, she was always communicating with you about everything. And when you have someone on your team who's like that, it's really easy to play with them. I remember I would pass the ball basically over the net and she would get called on an error or whatever it was. And she would immediately come up to me like, my fault, I should have gotten there. or I would pass the ball 15 feet off the net and whatever would happen. And she's like, hey, that's totally my fault. I'm like, no, it's not your fault. That was a horrible pass. Like it was not your fault. So having a teammate like that who just took a team and put it on her back every single day, day in and day out, whether you're in weights or whether you're at practice or playing, it's really impactful to have someone like that. So that's easily my favorite teammate to have had.
Super cool. Ladies, thanks for sharing today. Really appreciate it. Had a blast. Cary, over to you, man. I'm done.
Yeah, this was great, guys. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to give your perspective on a whole bunch of different topics. Just want to remind everybody, stay home, stay healthy. Let's get back in the gym as soon as we can. Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.